teacher educators and I trained them. And in every batch, there were among 100 students, 10 20 students were very notorious. And 10 or 20 students, they had a love failure and so many other problems, youth problems. And 50 60% of them were good boys, no doubt. But most of the time, when the youngsters were blamed, you youngsters, you people are very useless. We were not like this. This is the general statement made by our parents, by our teachers, by the elders and etc. But 8.5 years of my experience with the BA trainees or with the teacher educators, my experience was they were never useless, but rather they are used less. Why? Because there is a lack of orientation about their life, or there is a lack of proper thinking, which is very much necessity as the need of our my dear young Indians. This is one side from the youth point, and the second is we have to rediscover our India. It's one of the wonderful name they have kept for your club activity. Why? Because there are so many clubs in every college, in even IIT Kanpur, IIT Kharagpur, IIT Chennai, and so on and so forth. They have got Vivekananda study circle. Every Sunday, interested youths, they join, they try to discuss, they try to understand the life and teachings of Swami Vivekananda, life and teachings of great scientists, and they try to know about India. It is from already 2 or 3 decades, it is happening in the top institute like Indian Institute, IIT and etc. But today, even RAE also has started this type of work, which is very noteworthy and praiseworthy too. Recently, I had been to Vidya Vikas Engineering College for the orientation program. At the end of the orientation program, I appealed all the students and also I requested the management, please start some Vivekananda study circle. Why? Because our youths have to be oriented among about themselves and about the country. You may ask, Swamiji, orientation, why is it required? And more than that, knowing our strength is okay, but we are Indians, we know our country. What is there specially to know about our country? When we dig our history, when we study our history properly, then only we will be able to understand how we are poor in knowing about our country. Now, what is the use of knowing the country's history? Swami Vivekananda tells very clearly, a citizen who fails to understand the history of a country, then that country will not have any better future. Mark my words. And this is not my words, it's Swami Vivekananda's words. A citizen of a country where he fails to understand the history of that nation, then that nation will not have any better future. I don't know how many of you know, in US, either you go for engineering, or you go for arts or commerce or any other branch of knowledge, every one of them have to study the history of their country. That is USA, I mean to say. Why? Because until otherwise I know the history of my country, I cannot be patriotic, my dear Indians. That's why US has made a rule, thumb rule, that every student of any immaterial of any branch, everyone has to study the history of their motherland, of their country. Now, a French Nobel laureate, Romain Rolland, once he approaches one more Indian Nobel laureate, Rabindranath Tagore. He says, Mr. Tagore, in our country, we have got only one religion, or at the most 2 religions. We have got only one language or 2 languages. We have got only 1 or 2 ethnic groups. But in your India, I am seeing there are 2,000, 1,000 or 2,000 languages. There are so many 7 to 8 major religions is there in India. And every 40 kilometers we travel, I hear that even the same language changes. The tone of the language, the syntax of the language changes. You people say it is unity in diversity, but I am unable to understand about India. What is India? What is the uniqueness of India? So I am confused about India. Can you tell any shortcut or any easy method to know about India? Because I've heard that India is a very great country, or greater country, or greatest country. Instantly, the Nobel laureate Rabindranath Tagore tells, study Swami Vivekananda. Why? Because he uses this particular word because he says he is the condensed India. So why should we study Swami Vivekananda, his life and message? Because he is the condensed India. This was told by Rabindranath Tagore, my dear Indians. When I see, even I remember my college days, just like you, even also with the West, as a part and I am also a part and parcel of this Western education, Lord Macaulay's Western education. So even I have also had a lot of pre-notions, prejudices about my country, about my religion, or about India. But when somehow I came to contact with Swami Vivekananda, once I started studying Swami Vivekananda, then the whole approach and whole idea about my religion, about my country changed. Probably, if you see the history of India, the present day, all our history books tells about the invasion of Alexander the Great, isn't it? Because earlier that whatever the Ramayana, Mahabharata, they are mythological books, we are saying that we have brushed aside. Though it is not true, they are the historical books. Ramayana and Mahabharata is never Puranas. Puranas are mythologies. So in the 18 Puranas, in the list of 18 mythology, Ramayana and Mahabharata, it never comes. Unfortunately, the British started this prejudice about Ramayana and Mahabharata, which was the cultural bedrock of India. Today we have lost it in India. The present Indian history book, every Indian history book starts with the invasion of Alexander. Alexander was a great monarch, no doubt. Alexander was a great emperor, no doubt. Alexander was a great king, no doubt. He had a mighty power. He was known for his valor, no doubt. But he comes from a different country. He tries to kill our kings. He tried to kill our queens and their people. Masturbated most of our ladies and etc. And still our history books are telling Alexander the Great. Fine. At the same time, one who fought for his motherland, Pururava, Porus they say, Pururava, at the age of 60, in the age of 60, he fought, he never bothered about his life. His whole body was oozing with the blood, and in front of him, at the age of 60, in front of him, 35 years of a son, only one son, he dies in front of him. He loses his only one son, and his body was oozing with the blood, but still he never compromised with the country's integrity. And unfortunately, our history books never tell that Pururava the Great. He fought for our country. He fought for our people. He fought for our forefathers. He fought for our grandfathers, grandpa, grandma. But our history books never tell Pururava the Great. Rather, the person who comes as a foreigner, who came to invade our country, our history books describe that Alexander the Great. This is one thing. And how prejudiced our Indian history textbooks. He says that Alexander has invaded India and the whole India was taken under his control. If you properly study the history, till Bass, the river Bass only he came. Today, more or less, today's particularly till Pakistan only had come, or some part of Punjab only. So whole India he didn't conquer at all, but fortunately or unfortunately, our Indian history textbooks are saying the Alexander the Great, he invaded India and he took whole India into his hands. See how we are prejudiced about our Indian history, how our great intellectuals, they have misled ourselves about our country. This is one aspect. If you go to the history, now in the history if you see, Britishers came, before that French people came, before that Dutch people came, before that Portuguese people came, before that Mughals had come, before that Khilji, Ghazni, Ghori, and so on and so forth. They all they all came, they invaded, they ruled us, they plundered, and etc. No doubt. These are the only, they give this systematic diagrammatic representation about our Indian history. The other part of the Indian history, unfortunately, our history textbooks never tell. When I study Swami Vivekananda, I understood. As I told, the modern Indian history starts from Alexander the Great. From there, if you take, the Greeks invaded India, the Romans invaded India, Kushanas invaded India, Huns invaded India, Mongolians invaded India, then Mughals invaded India, Dutch, French, Portuguese, Britishers, they all invaded India, they plundered our wealth, but still our India is today also the greater India. If that is the case, what is our strength of our country? Unfortunately, no history book or no history teacher or no intelligent person, intelligentsia is telling about it. So many country people from different countries, from different races, from different religions, they came and they invaded us. They tried to conquer. They try to rule, they try to plunder, but in spite of that, we have lost Bangladesh, we have lost Nepal, we have lost Pakistan and Afghanistan. Otherwise, till today, after 19 centuries of invasions, till our India is great, our religion, our culture, our integrity, we have not lost. Unfortunately, no one is telling about our India. When you see the history of the India, you can understand what is the power, what is the might of my mother India. Why? Because Alexander the Great, he was the only one person, only one king was enough to destroy the Egyptian civilization. Before the invasion of Alexander, the Egyptian civilization was at its peak. And Egyptians were the richest people in the world at that time, just like India. And just one emperor, he invaded Egypt, and just the whole Egypt civilization and the empire was burned to the dust. But so many kings from different parts of the world they invaded, and we have given a retarding reply every time, most of the time, if not all times, most of the times. But unfortunately, our country history books, they are never explaining about our strength and about our might. Isn't it, my dear young Indians? One Alexander was enough to destroy the Egyptian civilization. One Portuguese people was enough to destroy the Mayan civilization which was existing in the Brazil. And just Portuguese or Britishers were enough to destroy the African culture in the African continent. And why the China built the Great Wall of China? Can anyone of you tell? Great Wall of China was built by China. Why was it? Because of Mongolians. So such type of Mongolians, 10 or 15 or 20 races, 20 countries, they came and invaded, but still we gave a retarding reply. What was the strength of our forefathers? Why we are unable to understand? Because very systematically our academic group, our textbooks, our history textbooks in particular, they have never told about these things. That's why we are not able to understand, and we are not able to understand the strength and might of our country. We have to understand properly. Now you may feel, Swamiji, by just understanding the strength and might of a country, or just if I have a patriotism about my country, what does it change? Will it give me a bread and butter? Or my ATM balance will increase? Or will I get a promotion? Why should I be patriotic about my country? Or if by being a patriotic about my country, what good for me and what good for the country? This question may ponder in your mind, my dear Indians. Now, when did we get Indians, my dear Indians? When did we get independence? 1947. There is a small country called Israel. Do anyone of you know when they got independence? No, Swamiji. Thank God that we know that independence about our country. Yes, it has got in 1949. So we got our independence in 1947, and Israelis, they got their independence in 1949. If you see the geography diameter of the Israel, even it is lesser than or half of the Karnataka. Okay, after 2 years, they got the independence. Now, in 2 or 3 decades, the Israel was tagged as a developed country, and India, after 7 decades, India has got a tag of developing country. Why is it this? A historian, for his thesis, he took this as a subject. What is the difference between Israelis and Indians? In India, where we were lagging, because we had the highest philosophy, one of the oldest religion, oldest civilization, oldest race, in spite of that, where we lagged, he made a thesis, he made a research. Then he understood. In 1949, when they got the independence, Israelis, and no Israeli was in Israel at that time. Because in the 2nd century ACE, their temple was shattered into pieces from the Romans, and they were killed or massacred. So most of the Israelis, they ran from their country and they settled in the different parts of the world. And some group also had come in southern part of India too. And when their country was formed, there was a call. So from different parts of the world, Israelis went to their motherland. They worked hard, and in 1 or 2 decades, they built the country, and the country is a developed country, not the developing country. And if you see the geography of the Israel, half of the land is fertile land, or the land which we can use for building houses, or the land which we can use for industry or for farming, etc. And rest of the off land among them, half of the land is completely surrounded with sea and the other half of the land is completely desert. And this Israel is surrounded by all Muslim countries. The one of the terrorist organization, global terrorist organization called ISS, and its headquarters in Syria, and Syria is neighbor to Israel. Syria has opened its wing in all parts of the world, including India. But till now, this deadly terrorist organization called ISS, till now they have not ventured to put even a single bomb in the Israel, which is a neighboring country. Why is it so? Because that is their power. If you kill one Israeli, I will kill 10 people of you. So they have showed their might, they have showed their power. So this type of developing came from Israel. When? How? He made a research. This is the important point. The Israelis, for 18 centuries, they were not in their motherland. They had lost their motherland. For 18 centuries, imagine if someone is there, probably it is 20 or 25 or 30 generations might have passed, but still, the Israelis may be in Poland, maybe Holland, maybe in India, maybe Germany, maybe in France, maybe in Europe or any part. Everywhere, the Israeli, wherever they are there, they were trying to follow the rules and regulations of that country, no doubt. But at the same time, in their house, they were always telling the glory of their motherland, the glory of their forefathers from generation to generation. They were telling to the children and grandchildren, children to their children and grandchildren. So in spite of losing their homeland for 18 centuries, afterwards when they got back their land, in just 20 or 30 years, they were able to build the nation strongly, and it got the tag of developed country. Why? Because of patriotism, my dear young Indians. And I gave a list of the so many kings or so many countries which invaded India. Every time we gave a retorting reply. How was it? Because just it was nothing but patriotism. How this patriotism can come for us? This patriotism can come by knowing the history of our country, by knowing the glory of our country, by knowing the uniqueness of our country and of our culture. Though we call our motherland today as India, which is given by Britishers mostly, has been accepted, our original name of our country is what? Bharata. Why we have got the name called Bharata? Because it is ruled by Bharata. This is the only one explanation, very bland explanation, which is given by our history textbooks, which is again very unfortunate. Of course, the great king called Bharata has ruled the region. That's why our country has been called Bharata, no doubt. But really, the word Bharata has not been formed in such a way. It comes from two words, two roots, Sanskrit roots, Bha and Ratha. Bha means knowledge, Ratha means one who is engaged in searching for. One who is engaged in searching for. Means the term or the word Bharata stands for what? The people where they are living in searching for knowledge eternally. Such type of people in many number where they are there, that area, that region, that country is called Bharata. And the one more is Bha, is knowledge. Knowledge stands for Atma Gnana, the spiritual knowledge. Paramarthika Gnana. Ratha is one who is always aspiring for. Where in the particular area where you can see thousands of Atma Gnani, spiritual aspirants, spiritual sadhakas, spiritual personalities, that area is called Bharata. You see, just in the name of our mother country, Bharata, what a beautiful idea, what a beautiful explanation we have got. But again, unfortunately, we don't know the explanation about our motherland itself. Now coming to the science, architecture and other different phases of India. Who was the guru of Drona and Pandavas? Who was the teacher of Kauravas and Pandavas? Dronacharya. So Acharya means teacher, we know. Drona. What is the meaning of Drona? Swamiji, we never knew the meaning of Bharata only. So how can we expect the name of Drona, Swamiji? It is too much for you. Is it? Anyone of you know that? What is the meaning of Drona? How many are there from the northern part of India here? So all southern part of India only, is it? So Donne you know? Okay, two people. Donne you know? Donne in Kannada we say. Donna we say in Telugu. I don't know, of course, what they say in Tamil. Donne you know? Prasadam which is given the temples wherever go. So the meaning of Drona is nothing but Donne, if you say in Kannada, or Donna in Telugu. Means the person who was born from Donna or Donne is called Drona, that's all. Means whatever today you say, the test tube baby, The test tube baby. So Dronacharya was nothing but test tube baby. Even in fact, the Kauravas also were the test tube babies. Imagine how we had the glorious scientific heritage of the India. How many have watched Qutub Minar, my dear young Indians? 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. In front of Qutub Minar, there is a beautiful pillar, iron pillar. Anyone of you watched it? It is not Ashoka pillar. No. It is an iron pillar just. It is not Ashoka pillar. It is an iron pillar and it dates back from the carbon dating and rating. They have found out and they have almost all the scientists have explained and they have accepted that it comes from 7th century ACE or 8th century. That means almost 12 to 13 centuries before one of our king has erected in the open ground, not like in the closed building, in the open ground. 13 to 14 centuries. This iron pillar has exposed for torrential rains, for the cold and for the heat and etc. But till now, this iron pillar has not rusted or there is no corrosiveness in the iron pillar. So imagine what would have been the scientific heritage or scientific advancement was in India. And which was the oldest university in the all over the world? It is in India. But what about world? It is in India, Nalanda, of course. But what about the world? Yes, I want to answer, my dear students. Nalanda is, of course, of India. What about the world? Any other universities? Nalanda only. It is not only for India, even for the whole world, the oldest university of the whole world is Nalanda. 10,000 students were studying from different parts of other country also. We were getting the students, no doubt. And the library was, of course, it is accepted as 3-story buildings. In some of the books they tell that it was a 7-story building. The library only I am saying. It was 7-story building, and when it was, when one particular king by name called some Khilji or something, when he burned that, it was for 1 month, the whole library was under fire. Imagine what an amount of knowledge we lost. So knowledge per se, rise and trend always, today we speak, we all, only Westerners people are intelligent people, we are only no religion, we are only spiritual people, we were not, from the point of knowledge, from the science, etc., we were not forwarded people and all, we have got so many pre-notions or prejudice, but it is not though. In India, of course, religion, spirituality is the bedrock, religion, spiritual is the backbone of our country, no doubt, but from all aspects, from all angles, definitely we were all well advanced. Now Vasco da Gama, coming to the, Vasco da Gama found out the route, sea route to the India, no doubt. Now Vasco da Gama, why did he find out, or why did he discover the sea route to India? It was a time pass. It was for trade between their country and our country. When the Ottoman Turk people, when they closed the way, land route of Constantinople, so the European countries, they wanted to come to India. As a result, first it went Columbus invented the America, and the Vasco da Gama, he invented the sea trade route for India. Why all of them wanted to come to India? Most of the European countries, why they like to come to India? Because of silk, because of gold, and because of spices. That means what? Our India was one of the richest country. The great historian Arnold Toynbee, he says that till 17th or 18th century, our GDP rate was, ours and China's GDP rate was 35%. Of course, now it has come to 5. In the NDA government, it was 7.2, 7.3. Whole India was just clapping. Whole India was a cheers, no doubt. But till 17th century, Indian GDP rate, India and China, both together, their GDP rate was 35%. Imagine how wonderful our trade and commerce was there. There was Silk Road from Afghanistan to China, which was also with India. It was of thousands of kilometers, my dear Indians. In trade, in commerce, etc., etc. In every way, we were well advanced. Only the problem came when colonial rule, they entered India. They plundered us, they killed us, and our India went way back. So this we have to India. In the colonial rule, our India went back. Otherwise, our India was one of the richest country, and it was one of the richest civilization too. And of course, since I've got a less time, 7 o'clock, Vice Chancellor of my University is coming for meeting. In 10 minutes, I'll finish. So I'm just different aspects of India, one or two points I'm telling. Yugadi, generally we have, how our festivals are very important. Yugadi, generally, I don't know about other states. In Karnataka, at least we give Bevu Bella. Bella is Jaggery and Bevu is neem flower we give. Why do we give? What is the reason behind it? Neem flower and Jaggery. Seasonal change. Okay, any other answers? Why do you give neem flower and Jaggery? So one symbolizes happiness, one symbolizes adverse circumstances or unhappiness. So we have to take it both of them positively. So to resemble or to give symbolically, we are given. That's it. Any other answers? Because that's the time in the Chaitra Masa, the Yugadi, the new year comes, where the winter is over and the summer is to start. So there will be seasonal change. And generally our body is susceptible, or our body is exposed to have the epidermic diseases. So to check these epidermic diseases, they asked us to take neem flower. And most of us we say, no Swamiji, if you ask us to take neem flower, which is very bitterish, so we don't take. Then we said, okay, then take along with Jaggery, so that just to check the bitterish of the neem flower. Why? Because you can have automatically your body will get the power or energy where you can fight with the diseases. See, in every part and parcel, or whatever the celebrations we do in the India, in any festival and every festival, it has got a scientific explanation. Unfortunately, we have lost it. Probably even with the Sankranti. In Sankranti, generally, seasoned seeds, yellow we say, yellow, bella, kobri, that is dry coconut, all mix we give. Why is it? Anyone of you thought over it? Dry coconut, jaggery, then groundnut, then some sweet, that is sakrechu, beldachu in Kannada we tell, and yellow we say. Sankranti comes in which season? January. What is the time? That time it will be winter. Generally you apply in Borolin, is it? Borolin, Vaseline and whatnot today. So for the dermatologist now, the doctor, he is getting the highest money, the dermatologist. So even that time, see, you see dry coconut, you see the jaggery, or if you see the groundnut and that yellow, all this thing has got rich content. What is that? Oil content. When you consume, what happens? Automatically, knowingly, unknowingly, whatever the breaks will be there, cracks will be there on your body, it gets covered. That is the reason this yellow bella was asked by our elders to give. And we were generally, now of course, I don't know how many of you witnessed all this. When we were small, generally at least 25 to 30 houses, we used to go and give this yellow bella from every house to house. What happens? Why should we spend our time, or why should we waste yellow bella giving and so many ladies come each other houses, etc. Now the present society or the present urban society doesn't witness this. Why we were giving? Because each other, why when we care and share, today you say care and share, it used to automatically happen in that vicinity, in that surroundings, each and every person, they used to know each other. So automatically if a person has got some problems, some difficulties, all other surrounding people they used to come, they used to help. That is what social being. Man is a social being, so that this was the thing which was practiced by our Indians, to know each other, to care and share. If you see any symbols or any part and parcel of our celebrations, etc., it has got a deeper and deeper significance. Again, unfortunately, our history textbooks, our education system, or our parents, neither in the house, nor in the colleges, nor in the schools, we were not being taught. So unfortunately, we don't know about the glory and uniqueness of our motherland, Bharata. So my dear Indians, so just I have given the snapshot, or I have given the bird eye view about my motherland, India, and about the uniqueness and the culture of our motherland. Only I appeal all of you, I request all of you to study more and more, to know more and more about our motherland, so that truly we will be Indians. Thank you.